Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our fourth Bengals training camp report. I'm Dan Hoard alongside former Bengals offensive lineman and Ring of Honor nominee Dave Lapham. Our reports are brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. Lap, the footage that we are about to see is from Wednesday afternoon's practice. That guy right in the middle of the screen with a bucket hat and his back to the camera is Joe Burrow. The Bengals elected to give him Wednesday afternoon off.
Which I think is smart, Dan. You see Joe Mixon catching a ball out of the backfield, and really, Wednesday's practice was situational. Goal line, short yardage, and it's really running back driven. So if there's a day to give off to a quarterback, that's probably the best one. And knowing Joe Burrow, he was out there taking mental rep after mental rep. Plus, he's not Superman. He's not a superhero. He had major surgery just a few months back. So he's in strength training rehabilitation. He lifts twice a week, does rehabilitation twice a week. So he didn't even participate, even go out to Wednesday's walkthrough. He did a strong rehabilitation work during that time frame and then observed Wednesday afternoon's practice. Now he gets a full day off on Thursday, and he'll be raring to go on Friday. There's nothing wrong with Joe Burrow in terms of the setback, swelling, stiffness, any of those kind of things. They're just trying to stay ahead of the strength and conditioning and rehabilitation program and not fall behind. Then it's hard to get back ahead.
So a good view right here of the Bengals running backs. That obviously is Joe Mixon, although half of his number 28 is obscured by his pads. But 34, Samaje Perine. 31, Jaquez Patrick. 32, Travion Williams. All guys obviously fighting for their spots on the roster.
Yeah, they are. And 25 right there is Chris Evans. They like what he's doing still out of the backfield, matching up with linebackers and safeties in the passing game. And he's wearing the number Giovanni Bernard wore. So they're looking to get the same type of thing out of Giovanni Bernard, who is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, no longer a Cincinnati Bengal, obviously. So I think they feel like they've got varied talents. Everybody brings something different to the table, and it's going to be interesting. Jaquez Patrick, though, Dan, that guy catches your eye. Man, when he hits it, when he gets north and south, he finds a lane, and he turns and squares up his shoulder pads, turns the corner squares up, and parallel pads to the line of scrimmage. Man, he's a force now. That's a big guy that can run.
I think people that have been following camp closely so far know that the defense, by and large, has been ahead of the offense. But one member of the offense who looks to be in tremendous shape and ready to have a big season is Joe Mixon.
I agree, 100,000%. And it makes you, as a coach, it makes you think, how much do I expose Joe Mixon in preseason games? I want to make sure that he's there on September 12th for the opener against the Minnesota Vikings, because he is prime and ready to go. He's cut. He's chiseled. There's no doubt about it. And, I agree, Dan, the offense has struggled some. The defense has stacked some practices back to back to back. But having been an offensive player in training camp, it's very difficult because you're in the installation mode. You don't have all your offense installed. It's sometimes you get matched up with a defense that you would never run that play against, but there's no audibilization. There's nothing. So you're stuck. And all you're doing is you're at this stage offensively, you're installing and teaching and learning. So sometimes it doesn't look too pretty. I'll go in the Wayback Machine. Paul Brown, in the beginning of training camp, we would install one run play in the morning, one pass play in the afternoon. So, the first 2 or 3 days, and then we go live against the defense and go scrimmage. Well, heck, the first day we had one run and one pass. You talk about your neck getting short, and Jim LeClaire's coming up. We're running a dive between center and guard. He's shortening my neck every single snap with that big old forearm bone. And then you get a pass to go along with it. And then after about a week or two, you have a few plays, to work against the defense. But it was really, really tough. And defense can be ahead of the offense for that reason. Defense is a reactionary thing. Offensively, there's, the installation and the adjustments, and the advantage you have offensively is, audibilizing, and you can't do that now.
So all of that is understandable and helps explain why the defense would maybe be a step ahead after 1 week of camp. Having said that, having been a former offensive lineman, would get you at this point to have the first big, really dominant day on offense?
Yes, there's no doubt. And the first thing that I would do as a former offensive lineman at practice, I'd tip my cap to the defense because they're playing well. You know, with all that said, you still have to go out and execute, and the defense is improved and it's playing well, and that's a good sign. Here we're looking at running backs that are picking up blitzing linebackers and safeties and slot corners and that kind of thing, Dan, and that's very important. I mean, you talk about protecting the quarterback. The offensive linemen definitely have to do their job, but sometimes tight ends in their slow blocking. A running back has to pick up a blitzer. All of that is part of protecting your quarterback, so it's all very important as they're in that installation process.
All right, let's look at the linebackers. Number 55 is Logan Wilson, the leader of the group in terms of those players that were drafted last year. He and Jermaine Pratt likely to be the linebackers on the field the most. And despite their relative lack of experience, they're showing up this camp.
They really are, you know, and I think there's Al Golden again in the white top and the black shorts, the linebacker coach. I think he's just a great teacher. And these linebackers, even though they're young, Dan, they've gotten a lot of NFL snaps already when you consider it. And this is the second training camp for Wilson, the third training camp for Pratt. And, you know, they're starting to understand. They're understanding the big picture. They're not understanding what they're supposed to do assignment-wise in the scheme. They're understanding why they're supposed to do it, and they're much more familiar with routes, concepts that they might see after experiencing a bunch of snaps in the National Football League. And right now, it's funny to watch Coach Golden push these guys, get them downhill, because that's what they're doing. I mean, they're diagnosing quickly and getting downhill. Pratt made an unbelievable play out of cover 3 with an interception that he had on Joe Burrow. I mean, that was just an outstanding athletic effort right there. So I think that this position group right here has improved the most without any additions in terms of draft or free agency. They all get drafted 2 or 3 years ago, not in this past draft, and none of them are recent free agent signings. So they're kind of, being born and bred by just, draft and develop. And they've really come on. All of them have come on at that position group.
We saw 51, Marcus Bailey, moments ago, 7th-round draft pick last year out of Purdue, only taken in the 7th round because he was coming back from a torn ACL he suffered early in his final year at Purdue. He might have been a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick if not for that injury, and that's starting to show up this camp.
Absolutely, Dan. He's a playmaker. He's getting his hands on footballs. He's tipped balls that have been intercepted. He's playing great leverage in the running game. He's doing a lot of things. He's doing everything that you want out of a linebacker. And the guy that's smiling the most is Darren Simmons, because he's got young guys that, like you said, Dan, if they're in a nickel defense a good percentage of the time, which they will be, you've got a few young linebackers that are developing and only 2 of them are on the football field. That leaves these guys an opportunity to have extensive snaps in special teams, and Darren Simmons has to be smiling ear to ear for every one of those snaps he's going to get out of these young players.
All right, let's make it tough on the linebackers. Let's do some one-on-one passing drills right here where they have to either cover a tight end or a running back.
Yeah, and look at this, outside leverage by Logan Wilson right here in the coverage that's called. He plays it perfectly, turns it back inside where he probably will have some help. So he's doing what he's supposed to do. CJ Uzama runs a good route, but Logan Wilson is certainly not out of position in terms of coverage. That's decent coverage as well. I mean, we're talking about Chris Evans, who they're saying might be able to play some slot receiver as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. So this is a pretty good drill. In a drill like this, one-on-one like this, where it's wide open. I mean, you've got open spaces. There's nobody else. It's unbelievably favorable to the offensive player, to get separation. And defensively, if you're in position like on that snap right there, that's a win for the defense. That's a pretty good play.
Thaddeus Moss, one of Joe Burrow's targets at LSU, hauling in that pass with Marcus Bailey in coverage.
Right. And, you see now that the pads are on, they're getting hands on. You got the linebackers. You can't do it more than 5 yards down the football field. But see, look at that engagement right there. It's less than 5 yards down the field, so you can actually bottle them up And that's just outstanding coverage right there. It stopped the route. Talk about rerouting him, stopped him in his tracks. And that was a great play right there. Don't want to grab, don't hold. Good route, good release. But don't get so handsy that you stretch jersey. The officials be watching that, and that yellow hanky will come flying out of there.
I think as a defender, I would dread these drills because, as you mentioned, there's so much real estate to work with for these tight ends and running backs. It's really hard to not allow a catch.
It is. I mean, if you and there's a drop. Obviously, that's not on anybody but the receiver right there. But a lot of coaches in their evaluation, it's not if the receiver caught the football, like right there. That's not a positive. That's the separation there was pretty outstanding. Logan Wilson either lost his footing or got beaten, sinking the hips and coming in and out of the break. But that would get a plus. But coaches will give pluses if the defender is there to make a quick play on the football once the ball is received, because that's the other key. You don't want to get beaten like a drum where the catch is made and then there's tremendous yards after catch. Sometimes you're never going to be perfect. Catches are going to be made, but you don't want a play to turn into a big play that flips field position, scores points, is a determining factor in a football game.
Typically at practice, Joe Burrow will get the bulk of the snaps at quarterback. Brandon Allen will get a bunch. There'll be a few for Kyle Shermer. Maybe not. Eric Dungy will get the opportunity to run the offense. Well, with Joe getting a day off on Wednesday, that meant a lot more opportunities for Kyle Shermer in all of these drills, and Eric Dungy got his most work so far in camp.
Absolutely, Dan, and that's the one thing that when you do get an opportunity, there were a lot of defensive backs that were nicked up today. That was not a situation where, oh boy, it's not going to be for a long term. They get nicked up in Wednesday's work, and some might only be out for a day or two, slight hamstring, tightness, or whatever the case may be. But that allows somebody further down the totem pole to move up and get snaps. When that happens, you have to take full advantage. A guy that did it in the offensive line, we'll see the line here a little bit later, Isaiah Prince. I mean, Riley Reef gets nicked up. Isaiah Prince is a guy the last couple of days of practice has shown himself. The dude's 6'7", and I think he's got a wingspan of 7'6". He's got some long arms, and he's starting to show that he can play. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for teammates to get injured, but if teammates do get nicked up and you have your opportunity to step up and shine, you have to open the coach's eyes and let them know that you're a player that is worthy of taking one of these spots. And there's a ton of spots, Dan. Everybody's looking for the 46-man game day roster, but there's 53. There's 7 inactives, and then 16 practice squad players. That's 69 guys that eventually they're going to bring back and keep. A lot of these 69 players are right here in training camp that the coaches are evaluating right now. I mean, if there has to be a big tiebreaker between bringing somebody in that had been in training camp somewhere else the entire time, as opposed to a guy that you've been working with for over a month, who understands what you're trying to install, how you're trying to install it, because you're starting from square one, bringing somebody else in. So these guys are jockeying for what portion of the 69 player, and then you got injured players. There's going to be a few injured players. So say you have 3 or 4 injured players, you're talking about 72, 73 guys. They're going to cut down to 85, which is just a few cuts next week. At that point, you're only talking about maybe 10 more players that are going to go away permanently. So everybody is jockeying for the best number. You want to be one of the 69 as such with 16 practice squad opportunities, but you're just looking to keep your NFL career alive. The practice squad's a good situation. And with COVID, Dan, they want to have 16 practice squad players like last year, so no team is decimated if they do have a COVID run. They've still got guys at multiple positions that they can fill in, and the league did a great job last year, and nobody missed any games, and that's what they're trying to duplicate. So players have great opportunities this year. It's going to be a lot of guys that are in training camps that are going to make the 69-man roster.
So I imagine the linebackers enjoy this drill a lot more than they did trying to cover tight ends and running backs coming out of the backfield. Now they have the green light to try to get to an imaginary quarterback against tight ends and running backs in blitz protection.
Right on, Dan. When they're in coverage, they have to react to what the offensive player is doing. When they're blitzing, rushing, the offensive player has to react to what they're doing. So in one case, you're counterpunching the punch. In the other case, you're the puncher, and you're making the other guy counterpunch. You'd much rather be the puncher than the counterpuncher. And here we are in some one-on-one pass protection. Trey Hendrickson working against Jonah Williams. Pretty good set by Jonah Williams. He's got he took a pretty good angle on the intersection point on Trey Hendrickson. Both guys gave great effort, and that's what you like to see in pass rush.
Against the guy that had 13 and a half sacks a year ago.
Exactly, Dan. And that time you get Jonah to turn his pads to the sideline very quickly, and he shrunk the corner. You see how quickly he was able to turn the corner. And Jonah wants to keep his shoulder pads on a 45-degree angle as long as he can and not face the sideline. That angle right there is what you want to keep if you can. Don't turn and face the sideline because then the defensive player is going to have a short edge. And this is what you face inside. Rennell Wren just trying to bull rush right there. Bull rush has got interior guys. Most of the time, they want to try to push the pocket to make sure the quarterback can't step up in the pocket, Dan. And at that point, the defensive ends will rack up some sacks if the quarterback can't step up. If the quarterback can step up because the interior defensive tackles are being stoned at the line of scrimmage, defensive end will come to the sideline and say, dude, I beat my guy like a drum. Come on. Don't let him step up. Every single sack, and Billy Price got his feet tangled a little bit there, every single sack is a team sack. It's never just one guy. And this is real good work. But I can tell you, Dan, watching this brings back nightmares of when we were talking about space that defenders have to cover. When the defensive lineman, who's a better athlete than you, is going forward and you're going backwards, and Interstate 75 is one side and 71 is the other, and both routes are open, that's tough, man. This is a tough drill. When they have all that space to operate, if you can hang with them for about 3 or 4 seconds, you've done a pretty good job.
This is Jackson Carmen versus Josh Tupo. They've gone at it in this drill for a couple of days, and they've also gotten a little feisty in some of the 11-on-11 work since Tuesday's full padded practice began.
And that was, you saw right there, Carmen just trying to anchor his feet, and Tupo just bull rushing him back. The first pass rush, Carmen's problem was lean. You can't lean forward and give him your shoulders and helmet. You got to get your head and shoulders back. And there we have Deontay Smith working against Sam Hubbard. And Sam Hubbard's just got a new big contract extension. He's excited about that. And he wants to show in practice to show his teammates he deserves it. And the guy that's feeling that is Deontay Smith. That's a good set right there, though. And Deontay, got the big long arm on Sam Hubbard. But see how athletic Sam is? He's on the ground for a tenth of a second. Jumps back up. I mean, that dude is all hustle, man.
Rookie Joseph Asai coming from the edge here against Isaiah Prince. What constitutes a win for an offensive lineman in this drill?
That was right there. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Prince stoned the upfield rush. Asai tried to counter, come inside, and Prince just washed him all the way down. In a game, they're just colliding with the guard and the defensive tackle rushing. And that time, Asai, he got the upfield, but Prince got enough of him. When he tried to swat him, he slipped to the ground. Guys were having trouble on this grass this afternoon, and I think right here you have Coach Frank Pollock coaching them up, saying, make sure when you jam with those big long arms, keep your head and shoulders back. There's a bull rush inside right there by Freedom. And he had a lot of freedom inside. This player right here, Hill, is very interesting. He's got a massive lower body and played center at Georgia. He can play center or guard. He's not going to get run over. I mean, his base is very, very – look right here. They say, oh, no bull rush there, man. You kidding me? That's a load in the lower body. He just sunk his hips, sat down and said, nope, I'm going to be a fire hydrant. You're not going to uproot me. So he's got some ability as a football player. There's no question about it.
Speaking
This
of
is a
big
good
and
battle
lower
right
body,
there.
number 99 is Tyler Sheldon, fourth-round draft pick this year out of LSU, going at it with Keaton Sutherland, trying to make the team or the practice squad with a versatile role as a center or guard.
And that time he had, oh boy, he bowled me. I'm going to have to go attack him. The worst thing he can do is lunge like he did, because, at that point it's one Olay move and a see you later. And that's what Coach Pollock's saying. You got to set, don't lunge. Make sure you set, sit down, don't lunge. It's a good set right there by Xavier Suafilo. That's a win. That right there is a win for the offensive line. Had him locked up, minimal penetration, particularly when you consider it's one-on-one. If that was a game situation, would have had him wired right at the line of scrimmage.
Amani Bledsoe is the pass rusher in this case.
Bledsoe got a good, little better inside move. Xavier's upset that he wasn't strong enough with his inside hand on the jam. And hand placement is so key. You got to keep your hands inside. Don't let your hands slip. You can't lose the striking position on the inside hand.
And that's Khalid Kareem working against rookie offensive lineman Gunnar Vogel.
And Khalid Kareem, Dan, we talked about it a little bit before. This guy, he's long. Last year he played hurt, and he still gave him good snaps even while playing injured. Now he's healthy. He's got length. He's got strength, and he's had an opportunity to show something. Trey Hendrickson had a little bit of a tight groin and missed one of the practices, missed Saturday's practice, I believe. And whenever somebody else misses an opportunity to practice, you have more reps. And he flashed. He showed some things. He's fighting for that, around 20 snaps a game, 15 to 20 snaps in a rotation as a defensive end. Again,
so the pads went on for the first time on Tuesday. That was the first full padded practice. As you told me afterward in your playing days, that was the last time you would feel good all year, just before that first full padded practice.
I remember up at training camp, whoever my roommate was, looking at my roommate and saying, well, like one year it was Tom Dinkel in training camp, and I looked over at him and said, Dink, this is the best our bodies are going to feel for the next 6 months. This is the last night. We might as well enjoy it. We wake up tomorrow morning and go through 2 physical practices. We go to sleep tomorrow night and wake up the following morning. Rigor mortis will have set in officially.
All right, so that's going to just about wrap up this training camp report. Again, the Bengals with Thursday off. They're back at it on Friday afternoon. A week from Saturday, they'll be playing their first preseason game against the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For Dave Lapham and our entire crew, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking out this training camp report presented by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. So long, everybody.